Here are the bowls. They're not super heavy. We can see it's really not that big. There is a small gate that releases the amount of water. Wow! That is the pine trees, also made of wood, marked at the top towards suction through this tube. Here he pulled the water and sent it towards this part. Hello everyone, welcome to another chapter of Exploring Stories. Today we are in the state of Hidalgo to be able to get to know one of the most impressive places that we have visited in this area, and I am referring to a community that lived on livestock and pulque. Today we find ourselves on a pulque farm in which many of the inhabitants who lived here lived solely and exclusively on pulque and livestock. Let's dive deeper into this story at this beautiful place. Come join me in exploring it. Friends, today we are not alone. Our unknown Jalisco friend Luis is with us. We will be exploring a hacienda that looks interesting outside. Let's hope it's the same inside. Check out the exterior.
Simple, but I think we are going to get several surprises while we are in there.
I think one of the best possibly that we have recorded as a treasury, I think.
Yes, well, social networks, Luis is known at all the parties.
Coming up about 15 days.
If you search on OnlyFans.
We're gonna walk around too.
Well, thank you, Luis. We also come with our friend.
Jose from Mundo Perdido MX, friends from around the world.
Lost MX in.
All my social networks.
YouTube, TikTok.
Instagram and Facebook.
Well, there you have all the nets. More punctual than anything.
That's the truth. Very adventurous. Thank you very much, Karnal, for the explanations you were giving. And the truth, well, go watch the video. One feels very important and very cool since it has all its tools, kitchen, work tools, everything intact, everything original, a museum, a beauty. The truth, huh?
Yeah, thanks a lot. Well, back here we have Raya's store, which was one of the super important places for the people who worked here because it was the point where they came to get paid after working so hard. In some farms, there was the part in which the worker worked and he was paid with the product that was taken from the farm, as in sometimes it was seeds. In this case, they were paid an economic part, a part with seeds, and sometimes in some other nearby farms as well, they paid with a type of currency that only existed in each of the farms. So let's go to the back where we are going to be able to get to know the tlachiqueria, which is the place where the tlachiqueros lived, who were the people who extracted the aguamiel from the maguey. So let's go to the side. The Raya store we can see here, it was made from stones. In between each of the stones, it had a little mixture. And clumps of tile or slab and stones. This was also as an ornamental part, but it also served to give it a final structure as a finish over the view, if we can see from this side. The hacienda is completely made of the same thing except for this part that has the brick, because they were the watchtowers. In a moment I'm going to talk to you about it, but for the moment we are going to go to the tlaxiqueria to find out where these people who took the honey water out of the pulque lived. Although most of the farms that exist near the area did not allow people to sleep inside the farm, but all the people who worked, who even though they were trusted, lived around the farm, this had a peculiar part, and that is that it let people sleep inside the hacienda. And this is because only trusted people were the ones who could live or sleep, even inside the hacienda. And we are already here in the tlaxiqueria part, one of the very complicated sections for many farms, because not all of them have this part that we are going to learn about. And I mean not all of them, because almost no one allowed or no one made this part of like rooms to live here. But why did the tlaxiqueria exist? Let's get to know this, and let's enter one of the places to get to know it much better. Well, already being inside one of the rooms of the casqueria, we can see that it is really not that big. At most it will be about 5 meters long by about 4. The truth is that only a cot could fit, maybe a small table, and that was all people had to live on. Something curious here is that yes, they had a fireplace, but we're going to meet it. Let's see here how very small, very, very, very small. And well, it was the only space they had for the Tlaxiqueros to live here. But who were these people called taxi drivers? Well, they were the people in charge of getting the honey water from the Magays. And well, you will say why they wanted the honey water, or what is the honey water? Well, honey water was just as it sounds, a type of very sweet water with which pulque is made. It is like a process before, from fermentation for pulque. And well, why did these houses or these rooms exist within the estate? Well, far from thinking that the same farm had rooms for them so that they could be trusted, well, the reality is that this farm, being a pulquera farm, obviously needed many people to be able to get water, honey, and manufacture the pulque. According to the data that is recorded so that this farm could operate, they produced around 20,000 L of pulque a day. So imagine the number of people who needed to work in El Maguey, work on the pulque to be able to reach this amount of liters of pulque a day. And well, that's why the tranqueria exists here now, or at that time, because now there is only a little left. From what it was before, now the devastation. Time has begun to eat a little of what now exists, but which fortunately we can still know within this quote. If we look a little at the structure of the manufacture of these rooms, we can realize that at the top it was roofed with Texas, that really the bottom part is pure stones. With the same thing that the hacienda is made of, the same mixture and the little stones around the big ones to give you that unique view that the same hacienda also has in its doors. Around the part where the door was placed is made of brick, which is currently lighter. If we can see here one of these rooms, it has become a corral and the door is still wooden. At least we can get a little idea of how it was built, how it worked, and how these people lived on a day-to-day basis in this, well, for me, a beautiful place. And well, the Raya store we are in now currently has nothing. So let's take a look under the door, just to show you that there's really nothing left. However, here was the wool part of the biuyo. All the haciendas of the time have always had a main entrance to which everyone is known as the Camino Real, which was the road that comes directly from that of somewhere, from some town, from some area to the haciendas. But not only that, but there were also other types of ways to get here. Today we are going to know in this hacienda the part of the train that entered the hacienda and the part of the Camino Real. So let's go. Although Raya's store is one of the main places where people came directly to ask about things that the farm sold or about any of the people who worked inside, we can see here a row of stones, which was like a little path, but really the royal road of the East Estate, the one we are seeing here and there, the royal road is supposed to reach directly to the main gate of the estate. In this case, turn around and enter this way. But there is something curious. If we can see here that stone path that I just showed you, there is also another one here. If we can see here, if you can see. This bank here and this bank here, and not precisely for carts to enter. However, it can also be used for that same means. But here they correct some tracks on which right now we are going to enter the part there and know why they existed before going inside the store to know why the train arrived at this store. Specifically, we are going to learn a little more about what is on the outside. We're going to open this gate real good. We're going to meet the ranch dam, but why is there a dam? Okay, well here the water accumulated and it was the way to have a huge cistern for everything that was needed from the same farm. It is a curious thing because most farms have a jahuey. In this case, it is a small dam. And why? I know it's a good prey because in the part over there is a small gate that releases the amount of water that is kept here in the same dam, and this is so that the water does not flood. It will not pass to this place that was where they had the livestock, and well, everything coexisted and there would not be any problem in it. And well, one more, our friend Josh from the channel, food challenges, food that will soon be released to learn about this video. The channel is already there, so food challenges. Well, let's see, eating very, very exotic food. I hope I'm not collaborating with this party in the meal. I really love eating, but I think it's going to be very complicated, so nothing, look for it, food network of things. And well, we are already in the stables, as they call it, and I find myself in front of a silo that is a good silo. Well, it is a place where they kept seeds or pasture to be able to feed the livestock. And I imagine that at that time they used it to store seeds before selling them. What does this mean? Well, even though it is a pulquera farm, they also had a part of agriculture, and they kept the seeds for a while so that throughout the year the same farm could sell these seeds in the raya store, and somehow they did not finish. There would be no shortage of supplies for the treasury and for the people who bought it. In this case, all the people who worked within the treasury. And then the people who also came to consume. Let's learn a little more about these stables. And I'm going to show you something curious about this style. And well, here we have the stairs that go up to the top of heaven. Why do these stairs exist? Well, curiously, in this part, the people who worked here went up with pasture. To be able to leave them at the top in these places where windows appear, they are actually like doors where it was launched, like the seat to be able to protect them throughout this space. You can't go up at the moment, and I'm probably not going to be able to get you there either. We're going to try. Well, that's what's inside the top.
And
well, friends, we can see here a slight seeding of minimal chickens that takes a long time to grow, but what I want to show you is really the cistern. We're going to walk over here and we're going to see what the cistern is. The cistern, if we can see it here, well, it is a place where water is stored independently of the dam or jahuey that has the same farm. And from here this water is stored to raise water to the reservoirs that are on the roof part, what we now know as water tanks, but at this time they were like water supply lots to be able to have water inside the house. Now we are going to find out how they raised it, since there was no pump. We're going to learn a little more about it, and you're going to love what you're going to see now. And well, friends, we are already in the part of the cistern, and I want you to see what you're going to see there, just there. This is good because it is a mill, a windmill, that helps us to be able to take the water, well as it is, from the cistern and send it like a pump towards the water supplies that existed within the farm. So let's see, here, right here there are some ducklings, and this reservoir is independent of the part of the dam and the part on that side, jahuey. If we can see here the operation of this air pump or windmill, it is based on the fact that the same wind was rotating. It came at the top towards suction through this tube. Here he pulled the water and sent it towards this part. And from here in this room it was distributed towards the entire part of the farm. On this side, only on this side, if we wanted to send water to other places, well, we had to use the basics, which were buckets, some buckets to be able to move the water both from here to there and from here to the bottom of the farm. Now it is important to mention that water supply, it was almost exclusive to the part of there that is like the big house or where the landowners live. This means that within this part it was where they lived, ate, slept, did everything, and this part was the one that had exclusivity of water precisely because of the windmill or the cistern, all the water that came out for other people, both for workers and laborers. And the taxi drivers were from the dam or Hawaii side, and they already had to distribute their water and go for their water to these two places to be able to have it, while the owners or landowners had it directly here. Something curious here is that this stable that we can see as a squat place, smaller than the part of the farm, is because here they put the horses, tied them up, and they no longer suffered from the heat. Yeah, they looked at it a lot, huh? So, these are the old stables on this ranch. Why are there different farms with different stables? If you're enjoying this video, subscribe, like it, and share it with your friends. Let's learn more about this story and explore further. So let's continue with the video. Very good friends, now we're in the trough. The trough was a space intended to be able to cast an axis, store the seeds that have been harvested during the year, and be able to bandage it afterwards. It was currently Normade, and it has currently been used or enabled as a dining room for people who arrive in the camps, and there are weddings, among many other things. And well, let's see. It's completely huge, super tall, and see something curious. At the top, it's still like the wooden part. It's new, obviously, but it still has wooden beams. It's something that still looks super interesting around. On the walls are paintings and photographs. What was once the most prolific era of the look what we find here. This was part of the Raya store, and this is the type of display case where they have quite a few bottles of alcohol. Their types of dishes, and look at this contraption. I don't remember the name well. It put the bottle on, it just turned over so that you couldn't load the whole bottle, and it slipped. Wow, look at cognac, the size of my hand, and look at the size of the bottle is huge. They just opened a really impressive place that we had not seen anywhere else. And this is a bowling alley from this era. Wow, if we see here in the middle, the ball had to go. Here are the balls. They are not super heavy. The balls arrived there. There was someone who tired them, and it was a return system. Wow, this is amazing. Really very amazing. Yeah, let's see what the pines were like in this part, because the gutters were wider. Was it quite complicated because the wood swelled with moisture and the balls made, and let's see, wow, I mean the pines also made of wood marked there. How was it going? It was super complicated for them to be able to make a chusa. However, there it was like the part where the ball stopped. And the person was throwing the ball over there. Wow, really impressive. Super grateful to know this and be able to show them a bowling alley from that year. See, wow, in this part how the goal is made of mecate lace with 3 tree trunks and a low tube where I kept still in case the ball arrived hard enough. Don't stick to the wall and don't undo it. This part was made of wood and had its benches in case people wanted to look with their eyes towards the garden. The uneven ball reached this point quickly and went up to have breaking, and reaching this part of here is impressive.
Let's see, friends. We are already here in an area. Remember that we are talking about a Hacienda Pujera, and who else for a trustworthy drunk who knows how to make pulque? What's up, my Max?
All right, Liz, how is everyone? Today I'm assisting Luis to clarify his doubts since he doesn't drink and I've run out of 100 liters of pulque.
I know.
Well, let's start with the part here. Let's start all the scrapers. These utensils will literally be to scrape the perch from the maguey and begin to remove the honey water. When the honey water started to come out, we used the aquapot, we put it in like an Annabelle, we sucked it, which was like a part of a hose or suction to have the ome. We covered the little hole in the pocoat, and it depends. We could put it in this or in a small barrel in the donkeys. We would bring it to the tub, which is where we are, and then we would throw it here in the tubs. The vats are made from leather, from different animals, with cow bull bones, some from smaller Cairo. The fermentation began, which is like magic for people to believe in that store. Curiously, 100 L of honey water were added in the morning and 100 L of honey water at night. This to start the fermentation. And it would be the pulque. Let us remember that this farm is pulquera, and since the entire basis of its economy was the basis of the pulque, that is why there were the caciqueros, who are the people who were in charge of taking the aquamiel from the pulque, the aquamiel from the maguey, to create the pulque.
What do you say Tinajero is called here? Tinacal?
Tinaco, by routines existed, yes, for...
What in Resmax leather and not in wooden containers?
Because the beef leather helps fermentation and makes a quality pulque. If we did it like in a barrel, the wood releases like a kind of different flavor and a different type of fermentation. That is going to be the process. So the pulque was not as good as it has to be, almost by law. In a leather, there is something wrong.
Well, a good part of who is explaining Max about the manufacture of pulque, friends? Well, nothing. If you are here, you like pulque, or you already know how it is made. Look, net, I haven't tried it because I lied to you, but I don't feel like it, and even less seeing this here. They are like bull bellies, turned over there or less, but good on social networks, Max.
Waiting for stories and nothing more. As a curious fact, in Mexico, pulque was the drink that was drunk the most. It was even given to pregnant women and children. When it comes to the beer industry, it doesn't operate as much, and they begin to create a bad reputation for pulque to such an extent that they say no, because pulque is very slimy, it's bad, it hurts them. They do it with a doll. The famous doll is in a net.
A poop in a net?
Exactly, a net or a UTY bag. They put a disc on it for fermentation, and that's really not the case. And friends, we have already reached the part that told you about the rails. Here we are going to see some vestiges. The truth is that there is not that much left, but we can see there, and that here the train arrived through the main door. On the Royal Road it arrived. Here they loaded the barrels of pulque and left again. So this is one of the few farms that had trains that arrived directly to supply different places in the Republic. Their products, that's why they need a lot of people to work here, because in some other farms that we have visited, we can realize that there were perhaps 50, 60 people. On this farm there was much more, and now we are going to go to the outside of the church that was there only as a curious fact. Here we can see a small train car. This is already more touristy, however. It's a good representation of time, of how it has passed, and nothing more so that we know a little made from iron, wood, and the rails are also like the cart. This cart was purely, not to transport some merchandise, but to transport people, and in some cases it was only used to lift 1 or 2 barrels of pulque or some food for the animals. But it was as very essential only for the landowners, who were the ones who moved in this type of small carriages, which was to move within the belt, to move outside the hacienda. There are other types of carriages that perhaps right now we are not going to see. The teeth are thinner, bigger, and it was to avoid the whole part of the roads that were not as good as they are now. Friends, I'm going to show you something curious that we are not going to find in all haciendas. And here we have a Virgin of Guadalupe, because in the skin of some animal, in a leather. And first the skin has to be treated as a treatment to be able to make this seal, because this is based on pressure. The skin was put in a giant press that she had as the metal structure of the entire image of the Virgin crest, water was poured into it so that the skin would ski, and then it was left with this type of press for quite some time so that it would remain 100% marked on the skin. So in very few farms or in very few places now in Mexico we can find something like this, and it is something that really, yes, has so much historical value, perhaps not economic, but historical value is quite awesome and good. Now we are in one of the main gardens, or the only central garden inside the big house, and we can see here back us a statue of a friar carrying a child. Many times on estates or ancient places they had like a friar carrying a child. It represented several things, and one of them was that some friar had given the blessing to the landowner's first son. Are there really different versions? That this is here, since the story is real, we do not have it from here, but rather it is a curious fact that we can find in much of the history of Mexico when evangelization began. And since this hacienda is Spanish, this part is a little more obvious. But hey, here we are, and well, we are going to continue exploring this hacienda. Inside this farm, we are going to be able to see something super interesting, and that is that here we have this very interesting gadget, since this is literally for decanting water or purifying it. Here the water was brought so much either from the well of the Hawaiian cistern, it was poured into this part, and later with a long time droplets fell down this stone and went into that pot. It took them quite a few hours to be able to fill the pot. However, once the water got to the bottom, it was pure water that you could drink, purified water, and that not all estates really had their water decanting, So this farm maintains quite a few original things from the time, and I think it is very important to know this because it really no longer exists. There are many people who won't even be able to meet him. This is your decantation water filtration system. Although the hacienda presents a little deterioration, we can still see the pillars and plates that existed, who sometimes used them to decorate the walls, but also all the number of paintings that existed that were made, in this case the women. And here we can see here are the arches of Father Tambuque that are very close to this place. And they even pass by nearby. Let's learn something more interesting. Let's learn about the irons that existed at that time and how they worked. And well, now we find ourselves in this part of the inside. Let's find out how they ironed their clothes at that time. Let's remember that it was a time where electric current was quite complicated to bring to places, but let's see here the irons that were used for heating. Even here he has his base. It is very rare that we can now find any of these irons with their base, and the fire was lit. The coal at the bottom was heated. Water was poured into this part, in some cases not. In all, the water boiled, steam came out and heated the water. Others poured it by hand and ironed it, and it's a curious thing. Even here we can see, well, this is gone. So are you. They were quite heavy, and when they were heated and weighed a lot, they passed and ironed super well. But it was also a very heavy job, which women had to do for all the people in the house. These plates, well, we already have, like here elsewhere. Here the water came in, it opened, the water came in, everything was heated, and with this wooden base the clothes were ironed. Here we have larger others, they are different models, but they all use the same bar, which is that they were heated to be able to iron clothes. Something super funny, this watch. Spanish, rain, fire, no, in fact it is, I don't know where it is. But if we can see the mark here, well, the temperature, the minutes, the hours and something. Here the scale is super interesting. The scale to have the weights of 1 kilos with 1 kilos and be able to take the measurements for the store. Something curious, here we can see a friar. Perhaps some friars lived here. Let us remember that in some haciendas in Mexico, friars arrived who were like evangelizers, and they arrived at haciendas where they were allowed to sleep, eat for a while because they were passing by, and then they continued their work of evangelization. Perhaps that is why in the garden there is a statue of one of the friars, perhaps carrying the landlord's first son. Continuing through the passage of this farm, we can even see in some places some bells, and it is not precisely because they were quite religious, but those bells were used for many things. Even some of them were used to call the peasants because the landowner needed something. Funny how not to call the bellboy. Something super cool too is that they still have a peeling machine. What does this mean? Well, the cobs are to be able to take out the corn. They finish the elotes or the corn, depending on where they are seeing them, and they put them to dry in the sun. Later, when they were already very hard, it had to be shelled on some farms. The shelling was used by hand. The hands of the laborers ended up bleeding. Hey? But this machine made a lot of work easier, and that is that the dry cob was introduced. It turned around by means of that crank. Or on this side, and the batch was shelled. On one side the grain came out, and on the other side the lote came out, which is therefore the part of the middle of the elote that no longer has grains. This made the job quite a lot easier, and even on this farm there is a record that there were at least 3 other machines of these glazers, but larger. So I think it is one of the haciendas he has had. More old things that I know are still preserved, and well, here he's still missing a band. In some cases a small chain was used at the beginning because there was not as much rubber. To be able to make these bands, ties were used, but hey, there are things that still hold up and others that no longer hold up as much. And well, friends, now we find ourselves in the domestic servants part of the house. What does this mean? Well, the people who helped the landowners to do quite a few things like cleaning, food, bringing things from here to there, etc., etc. We're going to get to know a little, and it's very nice, but I think there was a little affection. There was affection because they even have a source, so we're going to get to know it. Well, here we already see the source, that there are the rooms, which was like the part where they lived within the hacienda, and precisely attached to the part here, which is, well, the big house where the landowners, the owners, is where they lived. And well, here where the people they truly trusted slept next to them, and they have their little garden here. Well, yes, they had to keep it well, but it is also super beautiful. It's little trees, everything is very well taken care of. So now we are going to know a little about the places. So now we are going to know a little more about the rooms that this farm rents, so that you can visit and stay here. Although there is no rental in all the rooms, we can see it in this part of the beds around the floor. But the candlestick is also interesting here, which is like a cartwheel, already with some current bulbs. But in theory it was supposed to be like oil villas that lit up in a super warm way here, and it was super beautiful. Let's not only imagine how the people who were here for this huge place must have lived these luxuries, perhaps for some very well, and perhaps for others very badly, because also the pawns were people who added enough tasks for their families to help them. And well, they said before, no children worked or people worked, since the boy could grab a shovel and the girl a broom. Let's just imagine a little what that pragmatism was like, that separation between man and woman, and machismo really, but above all also that part of slavery that perhaps was not as marked or not so visible, so talkative, but the pawn belonged to the hacendado. And well, friends, I want to show you something really interesting, and that is for you to see. Behind me are quite a few traileras, which is the part of the hostel of the hacienda, where many people can come and stay and learn a little more about the farm as we have explored it, and see quite a few beds on both sides. But not only is it that place, but right now we are going to get to know another of the impressive rooms where there are even more trillions, and that it really looks luxurious in this room. Then you feel a current of cold air arriving and spraying on your face. Perhaps there are not as many trillions here as in the other, however, since there are many more rooms. And more curious that the wooden floor and this wooden floor are still maintained here. Well, in some cases he wouldn't be there by now, huh? Here we can also see it looks a little dark, and this is because it was filled with burnt oil to prevent moisture from making the nails. And we can see something curious, huh? There it is. There's something you probably won't be able to lift, but there's a hole there, which in some cases they used to store some things. And well, here's the beautiful place that used to be the laundry room with its fireplace, and currently it is a living room, a little set with the time, and well, really very beautiful, very well taken care of, and good friends. Just to finish, we are going to the bathrooms. It is super good. We can see here mega mirror, wow, another mirror with the Spanish crown, wow, incredible bathrooms. And let's see here. Well, there really are other stickers, huh? Well, indeed. If it is a hostel, well, you need a lot of watering holes and a lot of beds to serve the entire influx of people who arrive here. Well, nothing. If you want to grant this estate, this place, in the description, I am going to leave the information. The location is really impressive, incredible. I think it is one of the best haciendas that we have visited in the state of Hidalgo so far, and nothing is going to fascinate you. Well, friends, well, we are going to finish this video. We are about to finish it, but not before recording the church, one of the fundamental pillars of the haciendas and initial part of the landowners. And well, we still have some of the graves here. Let's remember that at this time people buried themselves outside the churches, inside the atrium, even very close inside the church, because they had the belief that the closer to the church, the closer they would be to God. And well, here too. Look, let's see what that little plaque says. Ildefonso Espinosa and Espinosa's Brasserie Brassetti function, January 31st and February 12th, 1885. Which means these two people are buried here. But who were these two people? Well, they literally owned this huge 7. Well, friends, we have reached the end of the video. If you liked it, share it, like it. It is completely free. It doesn't cost you anything, and it helps me a lot to continue making this type of videos. And well, nothing. The truth is that this is one of the best haciendas that we have visited, both in the state of Hidalgo and in the state of Mexico, and perhaps some on the part of the Republic. It's already raining. Thank you very much. The rain has already started, and well, nothing. Let's go before it winds us more. See you in the next story to explore it together. Bye bye.